Tēnā koutou e te whano o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou e ngā manuhiri. No mai haere mai ki tēnei whare karakia o te honongo wairua. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tatou katoa. Kia ora. I'm welcoming you today into this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 119 years. I'm Joel Hildebrandt, a member of this congregation's Children's Committee. It's my honor today to welcome you to this morning's intergenerational service. Today we welcome each of you, young and old and in between. We welcome our children and youth. You give us the gift of your wisdom, your joy, your curiosity. We welcome those of you who are older. You give us the gift of your experience, your knowledge, your patience. We welcome those of you who are in those in-between years. You give us your energy, your diligence, your strength. We welcome you who seek spiritual and religious community for yourselves, your children, your grandchildren. We welcome those who are seeking community, family, connection. Here you are welcome. Here we are whānau, we are family. I want to extend a special welcome to those who are viewing the service on YouTube. Is anyone doing that today? Either the live stream this morning or the recording afterward. After the service concludes, let those of us here in person join together for morning tea. It is our sacrament of hospitality. Please join us. It won't be complete without you.
do we do this? Okay, I hope you can all hear me. I'm going to just pop that there. Still hear me? Good. Okay, so it's time for all ages, and I'm hoping that we have children to come up and join me, because I'm reading the story today. Hi Larry, hi Ellie, it's nice to have you here. And for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Anne. Okay, today's story is The Children Take Action, a climate change story. One day, Hoane saw his grandfather staring out to sea. "What are you doing, Grandpa?" he asked. "I'm watching the birds, Hoane," said Grandpa. "They're trying to tell us something." Hoane was surprised. Birds don't talk? Do you think birds talk?
They speak to each other.
Yeah. But Grandpa told Hoane that the birds are very wise. People can learn a lot from the birds and other animals. To tell what climate change was, and asked his grandfather to explain. Grandpa told Hoane that the Earth's temperature is becoming hotter. "My temperature gets hot when I'm unwell," said Hoane. Larry, do you feel hot when you're unwell? Sometimes, Ellie? Yeah, a little bit? A little bit hot? "Yes," said Grandpa, "the Earth is becoming unwell too. There is less food for the birds and the fish. That is why they're leaving our island." "What is making the Earth sick?" Hoane asked. "We are," said Grandpa. "Gases from our cars, buses and factories are making the Earth too hot. People are driving more cars and building more factories, so the Earth is getting hotter and hotter. Just like putting too many blankets on me," said Hoane. Grandpa said that trees and forests were important in helping to keep the Earth cool. Trees take some of the gases out of the air. But people are cutting down trees and forests to build homes and factories, he said, so there are fewer trees to keep the Earth cool. Malia and Sione, Hoane's best friends, joined them. "There are no big fish in the lagoon," complained Sione. "We've been there all morning and only caught a few little ones." "And a lot of the coral is dead," said Malia. Grandpa said that this was because climate change had warmed the ocean too much. The warmer ocean was killing the coral. "When the coral reef dies, the fish and other animals have nothing to eat and move away," he said. Hoane told Malia and Sione all about climate change. "Climate change sounds like it will cause us many problems," said Malia. "My father says he can't grow taro and other vegetables because there is not enough rain. What will we do if we don't have anything to eat?" "We'll have to leave the island," said Sione. Nobody liked that idea. Where would they go? This was the only home they knew. Something had to be done. The children asked all their friends to help stop climate change. Grandpa and Miss Pata joined them. "What can we do to stop climate change?" asked Mary. "How can we help to stop the Earth getting hotter?" "We can't stop climate change by ourselves," said Miss Pata, "but people who live in bigger countries can help by using their cars less and buying fewer things." "We could write to children in other countries and ask them to help us," said Sione. Everyone liked that idea. They asked Miss Pata to help them write letters and emails to children in other countries, and that is what they did. "We could turn off our lights and TV when we're not using them," said Paola. We could save water in tanks and fix all our dripping taps, said Rena. Then, if there is no rain, we will still have enough. And that is what they did. When I am sick, Mother looks after me, said Honea. So if the earth is sick, we should look after the earth. But how can children look after the earth? Asked Maria. The earth is big and we are small. We could plant some trees. They help to cool down the earth, said Honea. And that is what they did. If we keep the reefs healthy, maybe not all the corals will die, and then there will be more fish, said Miriam. Let's clean our beach and take all the rubbish to the dump site. And that is what they did. The children have made their island home safe for their animal friends and for themselves too. What will you do to keep your island safe for everyone? Mary and Ellie, any ideas? We live on an island too. Something for us all to think about. Now, we're moving now to joys and concerns. I invite you to come forward and light a candle and share your joys and concerns with us, or simply to come forward and light a candle in silence.
I was concerned about that. Good morning, I'm David, and I'd like to light a candle of joy for a very unusual thing. It's a man I met last week who has been made redundant. And I had met this person before, and I knew that he worked for a tobacco company, and we heard last week that the government is going to try and put an end to tobacco in a couple of years. And so we asked him if he was worried about his job. And he said, no, I'll be glad to be redundant because I don't believe in the work that I'm doing. And he has been looking for years to get some other job. He gets very well paid for this, but it's a kind of skill that people who pay him so well don't always want the best for the planet. And so he has been looking for years to find some other job he can do, and is just this last week also has had some people sniffing around to see if they can do their job. So I share his joy in being able to work.
Morena, my name is Shireen. This is a candle of sadness. Last Saturday, I went to a wonderful production by the Auckland Theatre Company of the Haka Party with my friends Anne and Frances. On Friday, Frances was not feeling very well, and she and her daughter were going to go out to have a cup of coffee together. And Frances said, look, I've got a bit of indigestion. Could you pick something up on the way? Which Rachel did. But when she got to her mother's house and let herself in, Frances had died. This is a plea. If you do have what you think is a bit of indigestion, it may not be, particularly as we get older, and particularly if it radiates up into your shoulder. It could be a heart attack. So this candle is to remember my dear friend Rachel of more than 20 years. For Rachel, for Frances and her daughter Rachel.
Hi, I'm Leo. This is the candle for Alex. People, some of you know she hurt her leg, her knee, and she's seen the physio, and she's doing exercise now on a bicycle because she's not allowed to walk. Not walk too much anyway. She used to love her walks, but that's not. Physio says it's not good for her knees, so she's doing her cycle exercises. But she's coming along, still sore.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tess, and I'm lighting this candle this morning, and this is a candle of joy. Two things. First of all of my family is back in the U.S., and both of my parents are now fully vaccinated, and all of my siblings have had their first shots. So another 6 weeks, and my whole family will be fully vaccinated, and yeah, and it's been a huge relief for them and for me to know that they're protected now, and that, hopefully they will be well and they'll be able to do a bit more than they have for the last year. My other joy is, as many of you know, I started a new job a month ago. I just finished my 4th week, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a wonderful team, and and it's been really good. So definitely I wanted to share that.
And I light this candle to commemorate the other joys and concerns which we hold in our hearts but are left unsaid. Please stand if able and join in singing our Koha hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Oh, should we try it again? Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, you can't guarantee the audio. Well, only if we can do the audio. Otherwise, there's no point. I hear something.
Low below me, I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. A blue boat
There is a tendency to think that what we see in the present moment will continue. We forget how often we have been astonished by the sudden crumbling of institutions, by extraordinary changes in people's thoughts. What leaps out from the history of the past 100 years is its utter unpredictability. And that's Howard Zinn. And this from Albert Einstein. We are not closed off from the world, but integral components of it, like cells in a larger body. When that body is traumatized, this is Joanna Macy. When that body is traumatized, we sense that trauma too. When it falters and sickens, we feel its pain, whether we pay attention to it or not. And this from Albert Einstein. A human being is part of a whole, called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in all its beauty.
Thanks, Judy. We, the young, are deeply concerned about our future. Humanity is currently causing the 6th mass extinction of species, and the global climate system is at the brink of catastrophic crisis. Its devastating impacts are already felt by millions of people around the globe. Yet we are far from reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement. Come on in. Young people make up more than half of the global population. Our generation grew up with the climate crisis, and we will have to deal with it for the rest of our lives. Despite that fact, most of us are not included in the local and global decision-making process. We are the voiceless future of humanity. We will no longer accept this injustice. We demand justice for all past, current, and future victims of the climate crisis, and so we are rising up. Thousands of us have taken to the streets in the past weeks all around the world. Now we will make our voices heard. On 15th March, we will protest on every continent. We finally need to treat the climate crisis as a crisis. It is the biggest threat in human history, and we will not accept the world's decision makers' inaction that threatens our entire civilization. We will not accept a life in fear and devastation. We have the right to our lives, our dreams, and hopes. Climate change is already happening. People did die, are dying, and will die because of it. But we can and will stop this madness. We, the young, have started to move. We are going to change the fate of humanity, whether you like it or not. United, we will rise until we see climate justice. We demand the world's decision makers take responsibility and solve this crisis. You have failed us in the past. If you continue failing us in the future, we, the young people, will make change happen by ourselves. The youth of this world has started to move, and we will not rest again. These words were penned by the Global Coordination Group for the Youth-Led Climate Strike in March 2019, and were published in an open letter in The Guardian. For the last 16 years, young people from across the world have led the call to action to combat climate change. Beginning in November 2006, when the Australian Youth Climate Coalition was formed to organize climate change actions involving youth and school children. The Australian Youth Climate Coalition is Australia's largest youth-run organization. Their mission is to build a movement of young people leading solutions to the climate crisis, to educate, inspire, and mobilize young people to win campaigns for a safe climate, to keep fossil fuels in the ground, and build a future powered by clean energy. In 2010, in England, there were school walkouts over climate change linked to a climate camp. In late November 2015, an independent group of students invited other students around the world to skip school on the first day of the 2015 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris. On 30 November of that year, the first day of the conference, a climate strike was organized in over 100 countries. Over 50,000 people participated. In August 2018, Greta Thunberg, then in 9th grade, gained international attention when she decided to not attend school until the 2018 Sweden general election because of the heat waves and wildfires across Sweden that summer. Thunberg protested by sitting outside the Swedish parliament every day during school hours with a sign that read, and I'm going to get this pronunciation really wrong, Skoltrek for klimatet, school strike for climate. After the general election, she continued striking every Friday. She coined the slogan, Fridays for Future, which gained worldwide attention and inspired school students across the globe to take part in student strikes. A month later, in September, 10-year-old Lily Platt began weekly strikes in the Netherlands. In November, Sophia Mathur, age 11, began a Fridays for Future climate strike in Sudbury, Canada. And on 28 November 2018, hundreds of Australia students gathered to protest government inaction on climate change, kicking off the first large-scale protests. Around 200 students gathered outside Parliament that day in Canberra to demand answers from Prime Minister Scott Morrison. 2 days later, 15,000 students across Australia joined in that country's first strike for climate action. Since then, over 171 student-led climate strikes have taken place in more than 170 countries around the world. I was really surprised when I saw that. It's a huge list. Here in New Zealand, thousands of students in 40 cities and towns joined in the Schools for Climate Action protest on 15th March 2019. And I was there in Auckland. For those of you who weren't, look at all that energy. And look at it again. All that energy that our children have. The strike in March was followed by a second school strike on 24 May 2019. Tens of thousands of people across New Zealand joined together to demand for the government to declare a climate emergency, for New Zealand to hit a carbon zero target by 2040 instead of the current 2050 that's in the zero carbon bill, which has since passed. For all new coal and oil exploration to cease, and for the development of a renewable and environmentally friendly economy. In September 2019, a series of international strikes and protests to demand action be taken to address climate change were held. Here in New Zealand, an estimated 170,000 people, including school students, participated in 40 events in the urban centers across New Zealand. That's roughly 3.5% of the country's entire population. Turnout figures exceeded 80,000 in Auckland and about 40,000 in Wellington. That's almost 20% of the people in Wellington turned out to march for climate change. An open letter signed by 11,000 New Zealanders was delivered to Parliament on 27 September, urging the government to declare a national climate emergency. While COVID-19 disrupted most of the planned actions in 2020, School Strike for Climate New Zealand organized protests across the country on 9th April 2021, 2 weeks ago. About 1,000 protesters turned out in Auckland, hundreds in Christchurch, and about 5,000 in Wellington, gathering outside Parliament. At the protest in Wellington, Minister for Climate Change James Shaw said, "You have every right to be angry. I'm angry that for 30 years, which is more than most of my life and more than most of yours combined," because he's talking to the children, "governments and businesses have kicked the can down the road. Now we have run out of road." Probably not the greatest metaphor. "Time is up. This year is the year that we've got to move from talking about climate change to actually doing something about climate change. We've kicked the can down the road most of my life. Climate change was an issue when I was at uni. We knew it was an issue then, and 30 years later, we've done little to nothing. Sadly, not all adults are supportive of our children's efforts to bring this issue and for change. Australia's Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, infamously said, "What we want is more learning in schools and less activism in schools," in response to the school strikes in Australia early in the movement. Australian Resources Minister Matt Canavan said that he would prefer students to learn about mining and science rather than protest. He said, "The best thing you'll learn about going to a protest is how to join the dole queue," he said. Pretty condescending. Here in New Zealand, some schools have refused to excuse absences of students participating in climate strikes, marking those students as truant. Some schools even scheduled NCEA exams the day of the strike to try and force children to choose between their exams and doing what they felt was right. It's easy. It can be easy for us as adults to say, kids don't have enough experience. They don't know enough. Many people even said they're not really concerned about climate change. They just want a day off school. They just want to skip school. I disagree. I vehemently disagree. My children are deeply concerned about the planet and the effects of climate change. They know, and they have told me, they are the ones who will have to live with climate change's impacts. They are the ones who will live through forest fires. They are the ones who will live through changing weather patterns, desertification, the resulting famine and hunger, the flood of refugees from areas of the world where they can know where it is too hot to live any longer. It is time to stop kicking the can down the road. In a recent opinion piece on student protest, Branavan Ganalingam wrote, "There's something even more magical about teenagers taking a stand. For many, fitting in and/or being invisible are high priorities. Teenagers are unlikely to fight for something unless they feel passionate about it. There's been a lot of critical responses online to teenage-led protests. Time and time again, though, posterity and hindsights prove the kids right, no matter the dialogue at the time. Ultimately, if kids are fighting for underdogs and you're telling them they're wrong or that there are other ways to do it, you've simply chosen the wrong side." Our children are speaking. They are marching. They are yelling. Are you listening? Now, our kids came up with the next part of the service, and they wanted to do something a little more, not me talking at them, or you. So they are going to lead us in a sing-along. These are some songs they have chosen. So if I can get the kids and their children's committee to come, you can stand if you like, you can sit, but sing along with us and just have some fun. Come on.
One people, one planet, one spirit. One people, one planet, one spirit.
right, go ahead and be seated. Oh. All right. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. All right. Judy's going to read our closing words.
Yes, we're doing notices.
Closing words, then notices.
Yeah. We are not closed off from the world, but integral components of it, like cells in a larger body. When that body is traumatized, we sense the trauma too. When it falters and sickens, we feel its pain, whether we pay attention to it or not.
All right, and it's time for our favorite time of all, time for notices.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Betsy, and firstly, I want to thank the young people and the youth committee for a really inspiring service this morning. It really was, and I think you've done an excellent job. Thank you all very, very much. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you, really inspiring. I'm here just to remind everyone that on the 22nd, Saturday night, 22nd of May, we have our... Thank you. And we have our Quizmiz with us here, Rachel. What Rachel does is she creates all of the challenging questions for the night, but she is still open to any challenging questions that you would like to suggest for her. What we do is it's a potluck dinner. We have round tables. We have teams around the table. So bring your friends and sharpen your minds for a fun night.
All right, thank you.
Kia ora koutou, my name's Rachel. Yes, Quizmiz. Yes, you can submit questions. If they're too obscure, I might not put them in because dear David Frugier, who we love deeply, sometimes his questions are just too baffling. But they are entertaining, so we may have some of yours, David, if you want to put some in. But that's not my notice. My notice is on behalf of Peace and Social Justice and Brenda and Gary in particular, there is an appeal to send a kid to camp. That's with Glen Taylor Primary School in Glen Innes, which is the school that this church supports for Duffy Books and Homes. The appeal is already on our Facebook page. It will be in the notice, in the newsletter this coming week, so there'll be details in there, but this is about donating some money so a child can go to camp. And finally, Clay had to leave early, his apologies. He's doing a Zoom service, and there will be the script of what he's saying on the Zoom service out on the table to connect our in-person intergenerational service with the grown-ups Zoom-only Earth Day service. So kia ora koutou.
Just letting you know that the singing group looks like it's going to come together really well. So maybe after the service next week, after morning tea, we can have a get together and just have a little bit of a discussion about where we're going and how many of us know how to sing and how many of us are learning, and maybe a few exercises just to open our vocal cords. But we're open to new people coming still, so awesome.
Kia ora. Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi hoki aho. My name is Josh. It's good to have met a couple of you already. I feel really good about today. Last week I was in my home church I grew up, and the message was the exact opposite of today, which was really heartbreaking. So thank you so much for holding that down. I just wanted to mention something. I know it can be quite an abstract issue. It's really hard to actually deal with it practically. So I just wanted to take a moment, I hope it's appropriate, to talk about a social enterprise that I'm involved with called Why Waste. Long story short, what we do is we set up worm farms on site for people. And they sign up for a service where it is checked every month. You can use it as a bin. You don't have to know anything about composting. It'll all be good. Your kitchen scraps, instead of going to the landfill, you can just chuck in there, and it actually the worms turn these scraps into soil. It's all on site, and then you get to, if you want, you can use that in your own garden. It's going to be a huge boost for any sort of food you're growing, any trees you have. And if you don't want that side, we can just take it away, donate it to the organic market garden in Eden Terrace. They're doing cool stuff there. So, Why Waste is the company. If you sign up, it'll be sent to me. I'll be the one visiting once a month. It's 25 setup plus 25 per month. If that's something you can afford and it's something that you'd be interested in, we really appreciate every addition to our network. Cool. Thank you for your time and appreciate it. Kia ora.
Celebrity endorsement, the vicar of this church is a customer of Why Waste.
Come on up, Kate.
This is very unexpected, but I'm a member of Democrats Abroad and on the leadership committee of Democrats. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay. So I'm on the leadership committee of Democrats Abroad New Zealand, and today we are showing a film for Earth Day, and I've gotten the go-ahead to invite all of you if you would like to come. So it's at 2 o'clock at the University of Auckland in the General Library. Come to me afterwards if you want actual details. And it's something like, I think it's called Chasing Coral, and it's about the state of our coral reefs, and hopefully there's a positive message along with the catastrophic message. But here, I can read it actually. In honor of Earth Day, please come and join us for a free screen, it's free, a free screening of Chasing Coral, a Netflix original. A team of divers, photographers, and scientists set out to document the disappearance of the world's coral reefs and along the way reveal the underwater mystery to the world. So it's today at 2 o'clock at University of Auckland, and come see me if you want to come, and I'll tell you how to get there.
All right, thank you. That sounds really interesting. Do we have any other notices? Okay. Instead of breaking into small groups and doing questions and answers, we wanted to do something, an activity where our children and our older members can join together. So Judy is going to lead us in a spiral dance, and I'm going to turn it over to her. All right. Just tell them what to do.
Yeah. So if you just want to circle, that's why you're all watching dance.
That's right.